This is a Wingman map that is 800 megabytes in size. This makes it one of the most detailed source maps ever created. I'll be showing its beauty in lovely, smooth flybys throughout this video as I talk about how we reached this point and what's next for mappers of CSGO. This map is called Prime and it will be released shortly. It's being developed by Will, also known as Celery, who previously worked on Hive, and it's also being worked on by Ruzul, who's made all sorts of maps you know already like Climb, Basalt and Engage. There's lots of beautiful custom sound effects too, designed by MF Kitten, and the map's logo was designed by his friend John McBain. I'll be honest, Prime caught my eye because of Will's obsession with shiny surfaces. They've been sending me beautiful shiny things for months. They really know the way to my heart, and if you seek, you shall find. There are many shiny surfaces on this level. Some are big and flat and show the effect clearly. Others you'll have to search for, like the reflections on this rebar just here. But while this map does feature a lot of subtly shiny surfaces, it's the sheer detail of the map that's done it for me. It doesn't look like a normal source map. It's far grittier, dirtier, and more detailed than you'd expect from Counter-Strike. Every surface, on even the most basic of corridors, is plastered in tons of custom-built details. If I saw this scene, I wouldn't immediately think it was from the source engine. I'd say it was id Tech 6, or an Unreal 4 port of a UT 2004 level. But it's not. It is Source, the same engine that has driven games going back as far as Half-Life 2 and Counter-Strike Source, way back in 2004. Here's a map from that era, called Prodigy. This was a good looking map back then. Conveniently, it's almost the same style as Prime is, so I can leap between the two to show you just how far mappers have pushed the Source engine over the last 18 years. But one thing about this map isn't what you'd expect from a modern CSGO level. Do you see it? No you don't, because it isn't here. Nor is it here. Nor here. There it is. They've set the shadow distance to a very, very small value, meaning that this level doesn't use dynamic shadows, which is incredibly unusual for a CSGO map. Normally mappers are all over those sharp dynamic shadows, using them to mask the underlying low resolution lighting that CSGO actually uses to light its level. If I disable these dynamic shadows on Dust 2, you can see how low res the underlying shadow map is. This is ultimately the layer that calculates how the world is lit, but it's the real-time shadows that are normally overlaid over the top of this that mask how bad this layer looks. But Will has intentionally opted to hide the real-time shadows, taking it upon themselves to bring the underlying pre-calculated lighting up to scratch instead. You'll still see shadows on your hand model though, and when you do it'll be super high res because that's like the entire map's worth of shadows you've got right there. So why do they go down this route? Well, pixel sharp, real-time shadows in CSGO are all well and good in many situations, but they aren't how shadows should look when the weather is overcast. And Will decided that the older techniques could achieve their creative vision for the map better instead. On surfaces, the light map quality was increased beyond what's normal for a CSGO map to make it look less blobby. And as models are shaded per edge, they up the polygon count on these things to increase the perceived quality of the lighting on them. In other words, this map is lit in a way that I haven't seen before from a CSGO map. Another way Will improved upon Source's lighting was to bake a lot of the details in using third-party programs first. So that's probably why it looks less like a Source map and more like a high-quality map that's been forced into Source, kicking and screaming. And all this has been made possible thanks to models. Models have always been a thing in Source, right back to its release in 2004 with Half-Life 2 and Counter-Strike Source. It's what made maps for Source look better than the ones from 1.6. This here is a model. So is this, and so is this. In older maps, models were things used to add extra detail to key places, but in newer maps like Prime, pretty much everything's a model. Here is Prodigy if all props are disabled. Now here is Prime if all props are disabled. That's a lot of props. Traditionally, bumpy looking walls have been made out of displacements. Here's another early Source map which uses displacements to create a rocky looking wall. These are far better than the flat looking walls of 1.6. As displacements are like a sheet of triangles that you can raise and lower and generally bend to your will until you've bent your wall. But Prime goes one step beyond even this by using models instead, which provides even greater flexibility to shape and to texture them exactly as intended. Will showed me the powerful tools they use to make them and to bend them to their will. It takes a while to set up a system like this, but once it is, it's very easy to make adjustments to the whole thing without having to painstakingly remake and to reposition it all in Source. And here it is again, once turned into a model and placed into CSGO's own map editor. Normally everything at this stage is still waiting to be given lighting, once the map starts rendering and then Source can apply its own lighting calculations to the objects. But as you can see here, there are already a number of props that have some lighting information baked into them, and this was performed in superior third-party programs. It's this extra lighting, shading pass and pre-calculated bump maps, which help to overcome Source's own lighting limitations, and it results in models in this map looking more detailed, bumpier and slipperier than they have any right to. In this map, about 90% of things are Will's own creations, using programs like Blender and Substance Designer. 5% are CSGO stock assets, and the final 5% are licensed assets from sites. Will showed me SpeedTree, which is the program they use to get the trees looking great. This is a tool that's been used in countless games and movies already, and if it wasn't for my own lifelong hatred of trees, I'd be tempted to boot it up and to create some unholy monster of a tree out of it as well. And this is TerraGen, which was used to construct an awesome multi-layer skybox for D Prime. As you can see, you enter some variables, and then a convincing looking sky morbs into existence right in front of you. Will is particularly proud of this map's skybox, and the more you look at it, the more you see. I didn't even notice this distant city until I visited the skybox itself. Will even took the time to construct a detailed backstory for this map. It ties in with Will's other projects, several yet to be released, but there are also links to Hive, which is already out and featured in the game. Will has tried to keep the environmental storytelling subtle enough that it doesn't distract from the gameplay, while still rewarding players who take the time to investigate it and to appreciate the world they're building. Modern levels have so much hidden thought and effort behind them. They're no longer something constructed by somebody in the Hammer editor over the course of a weekend. Maps like Prime take up a sizable chunk of the mapper's life. This Wingman map has taken Will over a year to make, working pretty much full time on it when they aren't busy with university and contract work. During this time, Will has built this map up, then scrapped bits again, then rebuilt them again, until it's up to a standard that Will is happy with. But it is still just the Source engine, and as the mapping and modelling standards within the scene increase, it is the engine that is holding mappers back, and restricting how great their creations can look and run. Transparent textures in CSGO have several problems. The edges of stuff, especially on lower resolution textures, can look blobby, and the Source engine is so old and outdated the technology isn't even there to anti-alias the edges of transparent stuff. So even at maximum settings, plants in CSGO can look distractingly pixelated, especially when gaming at lower resolutions, which is how most people play the game. But Will has found a solution. Alpha to coverage smooths the look of everything out, even when no anti-aliasing is being used, which again is how most people play the game. The downside is, if you get close enough to stuff like this grass here, then you'll make out the weird, transparent, dithered look that this effect comes with. It's a clever technique, but it still comes with compromises. And the shaders on the leaves themselves are also limited. Newer game engines support something known as PBR, which is physically based rendering, which enables the surfaces of things to look far more convincing, with elements of translucency and reflectivity that go far beyond the basic shaders that CSGO currently supports. These leaves, for instance, could have a beautiful waxy sheen to them, but a lot of this detail is crushed out in the process of porting it to Source, while other elements must be ramped right up in order to balance the look again. Porting stuff between different programs is a difficult thing to get looking just right. Off the top of my head, I thought there was motion in existing maps. Clouds tend to move, albeit very slowly. Nuke has this flowing river, but it's well out of the way of the play area. Inferno has these smokestacks, high above your head, and the palm trees on Dust 2 move a bit. And yes, stuff moving is likely very subdued in the name of being competitive, but then you look at Prime and it's like, it's alive! Everything seems to move or change in some way. Leaves blow in the wind, water pours down through cracks, dust floats about when caught in the light beams. But Will suspects that all these details will cause problems with smoke grenades, especially in the way they interact with the numerous fog and dust particles that they have used around this map. Optimization and bug fixing is now Will's focus with this map, but a lot of the time they're battling with issues beyond their control, and they fear they'll have to sacrifice many elements of their artistic vision in the name of minimizing visual bugs. A lot of people are memeing about the Source 2 engine coming out for CSGO's 10th anniversary, but that would actually be great for mappers like Will. They say they wouldn't need to do so much lighting and shading in third-party programs if CSGO was on the Source 2 engine. This newer engine is a lot more capable than what CSGO has right now. It can light the maps far more convincingly, and with far less noticeable seams between separate objects. It's really what is needed in this day and age, when maps comprise of so many individual parts. And it won't just make the maps look better, but it will save the mappers a hell of a lot of time, which they're currently spending trying to make their maps not look ugly. Valve's engine is really being pushed to the limit here. I bet we'll encounter all sorts of leaks. Indeed, just trying to make this map look realistic has been a huge ordeal. Will thinks that many CSGO maps go down the more colourful, clean and cartoony approach because of Source's limitations. Will told me how much effort and pain they endured to introduce this much grunge to a Source-based map. This art style simply isn't catered to in this engine, and they don't think they'll bother with it again. Source is just too restricting of this sort of graphical style. So D Prime is a fascinating look at what can be achieved with the Source engine if you go against everything it's designed for. Will says they were influenced by games like Titanfall, Call of Duty and Wolfenstein, but wanted to marry that art style with the CSGO way of doing things. Their friend, eDude, is also in the process of creating a similarly themed map, so it will be interesting to compare the two come release this month. Upon release, D Prime will be immediately playable on the Mapcore Faceit Wingman hubs, so keep an eye out for that. Will has had all sorts of help from experts in the scene, like from Rizzle and Quoting, and says that all the work that they've had to invest into this map has made them more greatly respect the leaders in the scene, people who have truly mastered the art of making CSGO maps, like Catfood, Pone, JD40, Jakuza, Rick, Oskmos, Lizard, the Whaleman, Horse Strangler and Yanzel, who Will deems to be the current king of the CSGO art style. Thank you to Will for taking the time to talk to me about their creation. Check out their ArtStation profile in the link of this video's description.